to stay.
Hello and welcome back to Beyond Boards, a podcast dedicated to the actions and interests of skaters beyond skateboarding. My guest today, despite his Indian roots, has spent most of his life in France where he grew up. Sourya Panday, better known as Soy Panday or Roy Sunday, started skating in the late 80s in the small city of Orléans, France. After traveling the world with the help of his sponsors for many years, Soy and his good friend Vivien Feil started a board brand by the name of Magenta Skateboards in 2010. He is the artistic director of the brand, making the graphics for the boards and clothing among other things. Now in its 12th year of existence, the brand is doing better than ever and is working on their next video project, Just Cruise Volume 2. So here's my conversation with Soy. I hope you'll enjoy it. So, hello, Soy.
Hello.
Thank you very much for seeing me today and having me in your apartment here in Paris. So, I usually start this podcast with the same basic question with everybody, which is, how did you find skateboarding? And I know that you grew up in Orléans, and I think you lived in Belfort a little bit as well, but that was probably a little bit later in your life.
True.
So, yeah, can you tell me a little bit about how you found skateboarding and how you got into it?
At the age of 11, my brother was doing BMX and I was kind of following in his footsteps. But I also realized it wasn't for me because it's big and heavy and I just sucked at it. But so it was around like 88 or 89 and BMX and skateboarding were kind of linked.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of skating in BMX magazines, stuff like that. So the culture was slightly visible.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my very first eye on it. I was like, this looks kind of cool. And then around the same time, so in Orléans, I was living in like the kind of like in the suburbs, like kind of far away from the city center and civilization. And so whenever I would go to the city with my parents, I was kind of fascinated by it because there's so much more happening.
Yeah.
Like you walk out of my door, there's literally nothing happening. And then you go to the city, you see like people, you see cars, you see...
much more dynamic and...
You see rich people, you see poor people, you see... And so I was a little bit fascinated, but I wouldn't go so often. And then, one day I was at the back of my parents' car and we were kind of stuck in traffic. And I saw this guy like cross the street outside of crosswalks.
Yeah.
And in between cars.
On a skateboard.
On a skateboard. And I was like 16, I was 12. And so when you're 12, you want to be 16.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be cool.
Yeah.
Whenever I would be in the city, I was like holding my parents' hands pretty much and like crossing at the green light on the crossroad.
Yeah.
And I saw this guy, I'm like, this is everything I want to be.
Yeah. Freedom.
I want to be playing in traffic, in between cars without holding someone's hand.
Did you figure out who it was? I think I heard you talk about this in an interview, so...
I think I did figure out who it was.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty convinced that it was the local hero. He was actually a really good skater. He was pretty much the Marc Gonzalez of Orléans.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then I became friends with him, but like years later.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only afterwards I was like, I think that it must have been this guy because there was not so many people. And he was kind of a loner and just doing that, cruising in the street.
Why do you say he was like Marc Gonzalez? Was he like a creative skater or what reminded you of him, basically?
I mean, he was creative, but like creative at that time meant something kind of different because the skateboarding was not so advanced, but he was someone who was like just really good with a really good style. And he was like 10 steps ahead of anyone else in the city, or maybe 10 steps ahead of most people in France, at least in a certain... he's the first guy that I saw skate with a double tail. When the double tail came out, everyone had a tiny nose or like a non-existent nose, and then all of a sudden this board with a double tail comes out.
Yeah.
And he's super into it and he's doing 1 foot ollies with it, and everyone else is like, dude, that should not even be possible. You cannot do a 1 foot ollie with a massive something in front of your nose.
Course,
And it was just someone who would learn things really fast. He would never really come skate with a crew so much. He'd just like cruise around the city, and so that was my first encounter, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do from now on.
Yeah,
and that's what I did, and it also like shaped how I still look at skating and what I still love about skating. I still love to just be cruising in between cars, pretty much. To be playing in traffic and to go. That's what I still love to do, and that's still what I want to put in videos and stuff like that. It was all like shaped by by the very first.
That very first encounter, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a drug shot.
Yeah.
You're trying to reenact. Is that a word?
Yeah, reenact, yeah.
Reenact
remake it, or
the exact same feeling that I saw this day. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So from what you're saying, and I also read in some other interviews you did, that you were very influenced by like East Coast skateboarding. So what were some of maybe the very first videos that you watched, maybe around that age or a bit later? What were some of the most impactful videos that you've seen growing up, maybe?
I mean, so like I said, this vision of this guy crossing the street was my first encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And this got me into skating. But then when I got into skating, I loved everything that was related to skating. I was 12 and I just like loved everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching a lot of, 8th Street videos and stuff like that at the time. So basically the big companies producing videos at the time were Pau Peralta and Santa Cruz and 8th Street.
8th Street, yeah.
And the East Coast was like non-existent,
at
least not here.
Mm-hmm.
And even there it was like really nascent, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I was into like all this, whatever was related to skating, I was into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess it was with a 411 that maybe there started to be a small focus on East Coast skating.
Okay.
The first images I saw of that obviously reminded me of the first encounter, even though I couldn't theorize it like that. But I saw this, I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah, you could see a link.
I couldn't see it clearly, but at least it spoke to me at some level. I was like, okay, I like this better.
It had more flavor or more, it was
exactly.
Cooler or,
And so in the early to mid-90s, East Coast skateboarding was a lot more, started to be more present.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Eastern Exposure videos and like Zoo York videos and all this. And I was drawn into that. I was like, okay, this is cool. I like that.
Yeah, this is my shit, yeah.
And around the same time, I started living in the city. So that's when I was living in Belfort.
Okay, yeah.
It's a small town, but at least I was living in the city center.
Okay, yeah.
And so...
was there a skate scene over there, or...?
There was a small skate scene.
Okay.
Not very big, but there was a skate scene.
Mm-hmm.
And at least I was in the city. I was not in the suburbs anymore, because before that, when I was in Orléans, I didn't have so many chances to go to the city center. I was skating like in my suburbs or like in between my suburbs and the city. But within 1 or 2 years after I started, we moved to Belfort, like the smaller town, but I was in the city. And so I was skating in the city and kind of like pushing in the street, which was already like had more flavor.
Mm-hmm.
But the things you would see in videos at the time were mostly like West Coast schoolyard stuff. And so we're kind of like looking for schoolyards, but we didn't really have this. And also it didn't have the same flavor, but that's the only thing you would see in videos. So you try to emulate that.
Yeah.
And so that was early 90s. And that's when the East Coast videos started to pop up.
Okay.
I was like, we can do that.
Yeah.
In the city, so... And all the spots that I skated around my house were in the city, the run-up or whatever. I would always take from the street to the curb to skate a ledge and whatever. And in my head, I was pretty much Ricky Oriola. I'm doing this.
So you could relate a lot better to these videos rather than the West Coast.
Yeah, it looked like something I could do and something that I enjoy doing. And so I was like very influenced by East Coast skating.
And so tell me about maybe some of the very first sponsors that came into the picture, because did that happen when you were in Belfort, or did sponsors come into the picture a bit later? Do you remember when you started getting hooked up by sponsors?
After Belfort, I went to Grenoble for my studies, which is like south of Lyon. And so I was kind of back and forth, like visiting my parents in Belfort and studying in Grenoble. Sometimes we would go to Lyon. And around that time, so that was like 97, 98, I started having a couple photos in magazines. And with this, I got a shop sponsor, Bud, from Rouen.
Yeah. And how did that happen, actually? Because since the skate shop is in Rouen, how did they find out about you?
They were doing a lot of mail order. So they were sponsoring skaters
from all over France.
All over France. Okay. And I can't remember exactly how it happened. I think they just called me. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
Okay.
But they reached out and like, okay, we can.
And I think you're still
skate for them.
Yeah, which is cool.
I'm pretty loyal in terms of.
Looks like it. Yeah.
And around the same time, I started being flowed by the Osiris distributor in Lyon.
Yes.
And so I was at the same time I was
skating D3s
or not D3s, but not far.
Yeah.
Because pretty much all their shoes look like this.
Yeah.
And so it was really not the type of shoes that I liked.
Yeah.
But I didn't have money. Before that, I was kind of begging for prices at the shop. The shop in Grenoble before I got hooked up by Bud. Or friends would give me like old pairs of shoes which were not always my size.
Yeah, we're trying.
And so in a way, I was stoked.
Happen.
I was stoked to get a sponsor and to get free shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you're like, okay, I get some recognition. Like someone is like, but at the same time, I looked at my feet and I'm like, fuck it, like
not feeling it too much.
I pretty much hated it. Even though I was thankful for it, but I was like, this is not my.
How long did that last? The Osiris thing?
Maybe 1 year, I guess.
Okay.
And then I was a big fan of I-Path.
Oh, so they were already around at that time?
They were already a company. They were around.
Okay. Yeah.
It was still a quite new company, but I was seeing this in magazines and stuff, and all my favorite skaters were skating for it.
Yeah, much more your vibe, yeah.
And then one day I learned that they found a distributor in France, which was a friend of the guy from Bud.
Okay.
In Classics. And so I sent them like a sponsor me tape, and I was like, okay, I'm going to skate for this company. And at the same time, I had like the same month or something, I had like a couple of photos in magazines, and like, oh yeah, we dig that.
They were hyped on your footage,
that fits in with the brand, and we're psyched.
Cool.
And so I started getting shoes from I-Path. That was like
dream come true.
The happiest day of my life. The first day that I received these shoes, the Grasshoppers.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
were these the Nate Jones pro model? No, what's his?
No,
name?
the Grasshoppers were like, they kind of look like the high top Nikes, I guess.
Okay.
With the scratch.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I remember
one of their early iconic shoe.
Yeah. You must have been hyped for sure.
Dude, I was so hyped.
Especially coming from Osiris and What about boards? Like, were you getting boards from distributors as well at that time? Or?
At that time, no. I was getting shop boards.
Okay.
And
from Bud? Yeah.
From Bud. And pretty quickly, they lost the distribution around the time that I got to Paris. Okay, so in early 2001, I moved to Paris.
Yes,
for my,
to do your master's degree, right?
Yes,
okay.
And when I got here, I got contacted by Samir Krim.
Yes.
Who was starting...
famous French skater from the 90s, early 2000s, yeah.
And he was starting a wheel company called Tikal. And he got in touch with me and he wanted me to skate for Tikal. So I did this. And around that time, he was working for a distribution company who was distributing Deluxe and some other brands. And they overtook the distribution of I-Path, maybe kind of through my contact. And so I started getting I-Path from them. And since they were distributing Deluxe, I was getting real boards.
Okay.
And so, that's the boards I was riding at the time. And then I went...
And then Samir, was it Samir who started Minutia Skateboards?
Exactly. And then after that, he started Minutia.
And he offered you to ride for them?
And he offered me to turn pro for them. And at that time, I was doing an internship at Cliché for my last year of studies. I was doing an internship, and at the same time, Jeremy was asking me
to ride for Cliché?
No, to get a job. My internship was in sales with them, international sales.
Oh, you were doing an internship in the middle of your economics course in Paris, right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes. At the end, actually.
Okay.
My last year of college.
And so Jeremy was offering you a job over there, but not to ride for the brand, but rather work in like the warehouse or something? Or?
Not the warehouse. I was dealing with international distributors.
Oh, yeah, sales and...
Sales.
Okay, I see. Oh, so you had two offers, so either work in sales for Cliché or
skate for a company.
Become a pro skater.
Yeah. And my dream was to be a pro skater.
Oh, yeah.
And Minutia was like pretty much non-existent. Well, it was non-existent. It was not even started. And Jeremy was like, but I offer you this job. It's a good opportunity. And so at first I was like, okay, maybe I can skate for them and do the internship with you. Mm-hmm. And he was like, no.
Like, no way?
And I was like, well. And I have no interest in sales. Like, I didn't have any interest in my studies.
Okay.
And this part was like, I'm stoked to be in skating, but that's not what I want to do. And so I was like, I think I'll choose the other one. And it really pissed him off at the time.
Oh, really? I think he got over it eventually, but yeah.
Yeah. But at first...
It's all good today?
Yeah, right now it's all good. We're friends. And
yeah.
But at the time, I remember...
Yeah, he was a bit pissed off.
He was a bit pissed off, and maybe because he saw that... he was like, okay, this new company from Paris is starting up.
Oh, yeah, he was afraid of competition.
And this guy apparently thinks it's cooler to go there rather than to work here. So maybe that's a part of what pissed him off, and I can understand that now.
But he wasn't offering you to turn pro for them.
No, and I was like,
So
yeah, but
it's
like,
the
and he was
difference.
like, okay, if you want, we'll give you boards too. Like that's part of it.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's not exactly the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I can understand why you wanted to go to Minutia. It was actually your dream becoming true. You know. Yeah. Even though Cliché was a renowned brand and everything.
Exactly.
But,
and I was a big fan of Cliché. And,
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I knew that my place at Cliché would never be the same. I was like, I'll be a salesperson, and I'm not very much of a salesperson to start with.
Yeah. So you skated for Minutia for a while. I don't remember how long that brand lasted, but it was a pretty short period, right?
Yeah,
like
I think
a year or two or three.
About
maybe?
2 years, maybe. I think
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you turned pro. Was that when you met Vivien Feil?
Yeah. That's how I met Vivien. We hooked him up. So it was like Samir, David Coulio, myself, Alex Van Hoek. And yeah, that's when we picked him up, and that's when I got really close friends with him. Like he would come stay at my place in Paris. Like he was studying in Reims at the time. He was studying like business school.
Business, yeah.
And he also wasn't fascinated by school.
Yeah.
So at first he would come like every weekend and stay at my place, and then he just ended up staying like all week and never returning to school pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. And eventually he moved in with you, right?
And at some point he moved in with me. Yeah.
You became roommates.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm just curious to ask you about the very beginning of your pro skater career, like those first years with Minutia, because I read somewhere that you crossed paths with Kenny Reed, and that at that time, I don't know if he was already like the huge traveler that he eventually became, but I think that you saw him traveling and doing his thing and basically having a different career sort of than maybe skaters in America who were skating in California and staying at the same kind of spots. He was rather going to exotic locations and places where skateboarding was pretty much non-existent. And so I was just wondering, how did you meet with him, and how did he influence you in those early stages of your skate career?
So I was already like a big fan of his style. I was watching the videos and stuff. I was like, I really like how this guy skates. It was already like a big influence on me.
Yeah.
And one time I was visiting Paris before I moved here, so maybe it was like 2000. And he was also in Paris with a New Deal. I knew a Benjamin Debert a little bit, and he went with them to shoot photos. So we tagged along and skated with them. And it was actually his first trip out of the US.
Oh, really? Of his entire life? Oh, really?
I think so, yeah. That was his first time outside of the US. He was not pro yet, so someone wrote with his name on the board with a marker, but he wasn't yet a pro.
Okay. Oh, it was really early stages of his career as well then. Okay.
And
you guys are pretty much the same age, aren't you? Like,
he's a bit older than me.
Okay.
And from this trip, he started traveling extensively. And on that trip, I just kind of met him, but I didn't get close. But I saw him do this traveler thing.
Yep.
I was like, damn, I could do that. I can gather like a few friends, a photographer, and go to some place and write an article about it. And so I started doing that a lot, traveling to like weird places and coming back with an article, and I would write the article, get paid for the article. With this, I started to get my plane tickets paid for. For the first trips, Bud helped me out a lot, because then, I didn't need products, and they were like, okay, we can help you in some way. And so I started doing the same. And with this, on trips, I would sometimes bump into him. Like we bumped into each other in like Bulgaria, like in a few different places.
Okay.
Started being friends. Then we started traveling some places together. Like invited him to go to Moscow. Invited me to go to Israel with him and the people he was traveling with.
Yeah.
And so I got a little bit more official on I-Path.
Oh yeah, right. He was skating.
Not very official, but I was starting to talk with the guy in the US, and
rather than with the French distributor. Yeah, okay.
And they're like, okay, we can pen you like photo incentives when you have photos in the magazines wearing the shoes and stuff. And what else? And so around that time, Josh Stewart was making the static videos.
Yes.
And asked me to have a part in his next the
Static
next video,
3, right?
In Static 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so this helped me out travel too, because I was getting for Planet Earth also, that Kenny Reed was getting for, like the clothing brand. And so I could ask them for a bit of travel budget to film for this video, which was a very big video in the US. So you're like, oh, if you have a part in this, we can help you travel and do this. And so I started to travel a lot more, travel with Kenny, with Planet Earth and I-Path guys.
Okay.
And that was a really fun time.
Yeah.
Like it's like this was really like the dream come true, because I was skating with my favorite skaters, going on trip with them. I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? Yeah, that was really nice.
And so I just had a question about Kenny, because I heard in the Big Spin interview you did, you talked about a funny story about, it's not that funny, it's actually more dramatic, but about bribing some police officers in Russia. I was wondering if you could share it with the English speakers that are listening to this. What year was that? Do you remember that trip to Russia?
Must have been 2005 or 6. Yeah, Kenny had rented a room, Airbnb, for like 3 months. Okay. And just like got people to come over, like photographers, filmers, and friends.
In Moscow? Or?
In Moscow, yeah.
Okay.
And it was like, yeah, if you want to come, like, you know, you can stay here. Mm-hmm. So I went there for a week, and already to go there was like a hassle, because you need like a voucher.
Visa?
Yeah, some kind of... You need the visa, but you need like a voucher. You need to be invited by someone there.
Oh, okay.
And like to get the visa was like quite complicated and expensive. And so it was kind of a nightmare to go there. And normally when you get there, you're supposed to go to the embassy to get your passport stamped. Or if you stay at the hotel, they do it for you. Mm-hmm. But I was staying with Kenny, so the hotel didn't do it for me. And I was like, damn, I'm here for a week. I want to go to an embassy and spend like 5 hours to get a stamp. Like, fuck it.
Yeah.
And it was fine the whole way. And then on the very last night, we went to a bar because some people were like, okay, let's have a last drink. Mm-hmm. You guys been here for a week? And my plan was literally the next morning. And on the way to the bar, we kind of all stopped in an alleyway to piss.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm taking a piss, and I turn my hand back, and I just see a car like passing in front of the alleyway and then turning back like.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, maybe it's time. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who these people are, but it doesn't look good.
Okay.
And so we all like went out of the alleyway, and obviously these 2 cops come out, and they're like, and they speak only Russian.
Oh yeah. Nobody spoke Russian in your group?
No, I mean, Kenny's girlfriend spoke, she's Bulgarian, and she could understand and speak a little bit.
Okay.
But no one else.
So it was difficult to communicate, yeah.
It was almost impossible.
Yeah.
And the guy spoke only Russian, so they checked our passports and everything, and obviously the problems was with me and Kenny. So very quickly we realized, okay, it's the stamp.
Oh, yeah.
It's the stamp that we don't have. But we played dumb. We're like, hey, what's going on?
We didn't know we needed it.
And it lasted for like 20 minutes of them talking Russian, arguing that we don't have the stamp, and us playing dumb. And after 20 minutes, Kenny's girlfriend, who understood it, she told us in English, like, okay, now they're talking about taking you to the station.
Okay.
And in Russia, it's not a very good idea right now.
Yeah, not cool. Yeah.
And so Kenny was like, well, I think we should give them some money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I've never done that in my life. Like, I don't know how you go about it.
Yeah.
And then Kenny went first. He's like, okay, maybe we can find an arrangement with some money, maybe.
Did he just pull out the money and show them? Or
no, he was just like, okay, maybe we can find an arrangement. Maybe we can give you some money or some shit. So I guess, he pulled like for the gesture so that the guy understood. So he must have taken some money out. And at this point on, they start speaking English.
All of a sudden.
And so all of a sudden, I realized that they understood everything that
you guys
Kenny's girlfriend that we were saying.
Yeah.
So that we knew why they were here, and they knew we were playing dumb. They knew that Kenny's girlfriend was translating.
They were playing you the whole time.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck.
Bastards.
And then all of a sudden, they're like, okay, it's going to be $200 each.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And I had, I think, 500 rubles on me, which was the equivalent of $12.
Okay.
And so when I hear the 200,
not even close.
and I know that they played us, and they knew that we knew and stuff like that. I was like, we're fucked, man. This is not looking good.
We're going to the police station, and
And so when they said the $200, Kenny was like, come on, we got 500 rubles. In my head, I'm like, okay, we're fucked.
Yeah,
it's done. And they were like, okay.
Like
instantly.
Okay.
Instantly, so we each gave them 500, so $24.
Mm-hmm.
They took it instantly. We're taking out the money, and they're like, no, not here. And they took us back to the little alleyway, the dark alleyway. Take the money, give the passports back, say a little like, it was nice doing business with you. I'm like, oh shit, this is out of a fucking movie. And then I talked about it to a friend of mine who was a photographer for Kingpin, who was the one who helped me out with his travel, because he's been there many times and he had contacts, and I was always in contact with him.
Okay.
And I told him the story, and I was like, wow, really? I've bribed like so many cops in Russia, and the most I ever paid was 300 rubles.
Oh, okay.
We paid in total, we paid 1,000.
Oh,
It's like the very most I spent was 300. So like, then on top of that, we gave them.
You overpaid them, yeah.
Yeah, but they were asking for 400. Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
they were gonna maximize. Of course, they were like 200, and you offered 12, and they're like, fine, that's fine, yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I've been wanting to go back since then, but I haven't had a chance.
I was gonna ask you. Yeah, did you ever go back after that? No.
No, I haven't had a chance. We're planning on it. We're supposed to do like a small Magenta tour. I don't know who was gonna come. It was mostly me and Vivien very much who wanted to go.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not gonna happen anytime soon.
But then, the COVID happened, and we had to postpone it. And then after that was
war in Ukraine.
All this shit, and so we can't go anymore. I'm like, fuck, man, no, I really want to go back.
Yeah. Well, maybe in a few years or something when things calm down, hopefully. Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you also. You wrote for Landscape, British brand. Did that happen pretty much around that time? Was that your first board sponsor after Minutia, or did you have other things going on in between? Or
so when Minutia ended after 2 years, I was going to London to skate a lot because that's where Josh was going there a lot. He was filming a static part in London, and I was closer to the London scene than I was to the Parisian scene. The Parisian scene was a lot of plaza skating. Like the Dome and stuff like that.
Too much your vibe, yeah.
And in London, they were skating like more rugged streets and stuff like that. So I was interested in that. I was looking at their videos a lot, like all the blueprint stuff and even like the early landscape.
Yeah.
So I started going there a lot and making friends with people there. And so when Minutia kind of faded, they offered me to skate for the company and film for their video. And so I started doing that. Cool. And this lasted for...
Did you have a part in one of their videos? Because I remember seeing an old Landscape video. I don't remember the name, but I think Joel Curtis had the very first part skating to The Cure. I don't remember which video that was, but I don't think you have a part in there, or maybe I'm mistaken. I'm not sure.
The first video they did, I didn't have a part in it. They came to Paris to film some parts of it, and they were staying with me. So I was already friends with them when they were filming their first video.
And then you got on the
And then I got on, and so they made a small introduction video for me and Tom Locke, who got on at the same time. So it was like a very short video.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started filming for Horizons, which was their second full length.
Full length, yeah.
And I got a part in that one.
Okay.
That came out, I think, in 2008. So just after Static, or around that time. Okay. Static was 2007.
The Static 3 that you were in?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so it was right before.
So yeah, for Static 3, I was still on Landscape. And Landscape video, I believe it's 2008.
Yeah. And so let's talk about Static 3 for a little bit, because you said you had a part in there, but how did you meet with Josh? How did that connection happen?
I went to the Static 2 premiere in London because one of my favorite skaters had a part in it. It's like, okay, this is...
Was it the one with Bobby Puglio?
Bobby Puglio, Ricky Oyola, Kenny Reed.
Kenny had a part, yeah.
And I was like, I want to see a part of these guys. Those are my favorite skaters.
Yeah.
And so already for Static 2, I was kind of dreaming of having a few tricks because I was going to London a lot. I know they were, even when Josh didn't go, he was working with filmers there and they were filming a London section.
Okay.
And I was going there a lot at the time. So I was like, maybe I could wiggle something in there. And it never happened. But I went to the premiere. I was super stoked. And I said hi, but I didn't really...
got to chat much with
because
Josh.
It was the premiere. It was a lot of people. And I was like, I don't want to fan out. But I didn't send him an email being like, thanks for doing this video with all these guys. Like, this is really...
just saying that you enjoyed it very much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And just thanking him for making these videos.
His work, yeah.
Because I'd seen also like Static 1 before that and just followed that. And his reply was like, I actually wanted to reach out to you to film a part for the next one and like film a Paris section. And I was like, damn, crazy.
Yeah,
all right.
Stars aligned. Yeah, it's amazing. And so he flew over here to film that part with you?
No, at first he rented a house in Miami. And had some people come over, some people he wanted to have in the next video. So Steve Brandy was there, Pat Steiner, Joey Pressey, and Snowy.
Oh yeah, Snowy who wrote for Landscape as well, right?
Joey Pressey and Snowy were both on Landscape.
Yeah.
And he wanted to have a part with them.
Okay.
And so I went there for like 2 weeks. But I just, not very long before that, a few months before that, I fucked my ankle.
Okay.
And I was just recovering when I went there.
Oh, so you couldn't skate fully?
Yeah, my confidence wasn't back, and And basically I filmed like 2 tricks in 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, this is not happening.
Yeah.
And I felt like
part won't be happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt really bad. And I was like, okay, like he asked all these people, but it doesn't mean that they're really gonna have a part. And if I can't film more than 2 tricks in 2 weeks, like this is kind of over. You just suck, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And so he brought me back to the airport, and I was like, okay, I need to break it down to him, and because I felt embarrassed. I'm like, okay, like, and I felt embarrassed for him because I was like, okay, now maybe he went ahead and told me that he wanted that part of me, but obviously I suck at skating, so it's not gonna happen. So I was like, okay, I need to be the one to disembarrass him. Okay, I'll put that weight off, and I'll just.
Yes. Okay, I understand.
And I was about to say like, okay, let's forget it. It was really nice to have me here. And before I could say that, he was like, okay, what I'll do is I'll come a week in France to stay with you.
Okay, amazing.
Like, oh, okay.
Did he come late a bit later? Did he give you enough time for you to recover fully from your ankle injury?
It came like not so much longer after that, I think.
Okay.
Like within a few months.
Because on that video part, you don't seem like you're skating really well, so it doesn't look like you're.
I mean, even when I was in Miami, I think I could pretty much skate.
Okay.
Most of it, but my
like
head wasn't really. And the spots are different, so there's a whole. And so within a few months, he came to Paris to stay with me for a week, which for sure was like the most productive week of my life because I filmed.
Yeah,
like a good
the whole part, like, basically. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I mean, there's a few tricks here and there that come from different trips.
There's a
but
few
the backbone
in
of it
SF,
is
aren't there?
there's some stuff in SF. I was still like traveling, and whenever I'd go somewhere, I was like, okay, I'm filming Path of Static, and so everywhere I try to film stuff for that. So there's a few clips from here and there, but I would say like 60 or 70% of the part
is in Paris.
Is in Paris, and filmed with that 1 week.
Mm-hmm. And so you shared the part, well, not exactly sharing, but Vivien had some tricks in there, but just a few tricks. Like
Vivien had a few tricks.
Half and half.
Kenny Reed had a trick.
Oh, did he? Okay, I didn't remember. Okay.
Mickey McRod and Jan Cleaver had a trick because I was traveling. At the time, I was traveling a lot with Mickey, Jan, and Vivien, and sometimes Kenny as well. And so I had tricks of them all of them in the park. And Vivien was living with me, and so whenever I'd go skate, like for that week, he filmed a lot of stuff in that week too. Mm-hmm. And so there's like a little section of him, and this was a really fun time too. That week was pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, must have been really
busy,
intense.
Really intense.
Yeah.
2 of my longest line and the most hectic ones were filmed the same day.
I think the first line you do that like a 180, then a frontside half cap flip, then it's at Hôtel de Ville in Paris, and then kickflip nose manual nollie tray out. That's a super tight line. I remember seeing that and being like, wow, I did not imagine you doing a nollie tray out of it. I was like, maybe nollie flip or nollie shove, but nollie tray, I wasn't expecting it. I remember being caught by surprise by it, like, whoa, shit, like that's.
And the line actually continued, but I missed at the end.
Oh, you continued it?
And so he cut the line here because that was he kept what was best. But and so this line, the trouble with it is like, at the end, by the time of the nollie tray out, it's at a corner. And Hôtel de Ville is like very central. It's very touristy.
Lots of people
so
walking
there's always people coming that you can't see coming. There's like a dead angle, and you've done the beginning of the line already, which is there's a lot to miss already.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you reach the end, there's a constant flow of people coming, even though there's a friend of mine kind of
he was like
stopping the people. But like if you try to stop people in a touristy place, like most of the people don't even speak French, and they just see some kind of weird dude with a skateboard trying to come up to them, and they're like, we don't have any money. I'm not going to give you any money. So they don't even turn their head, they just keep walking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I was driving crazy because every time I would reach to the point of the nollie tray, there'd be someone coming. Every time. I'm like, come on, man.
Yeah, it must have been a mindfuck for sure.
It was like hours trying this, mainly because of this.
Okay.
So I was pretty good with the rest. Mm-hmm. And every time I'd reach the end, there'd be someone, and I'm like, I'm never going to have a fucking try. And sometimes I would get a try at the nollie tray and miss it. But I didn't do so many tries of the nollie tray.
Yeah, because every time there would be someone, and
there's always someone.
You would have to stop, basically.
And so that was a really like long and stressful line because of this, and took hours. And from there, we went to the Trocadero in front of the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
And filmed the other long line.
Where you nollie back heel and like
fakey
a tail
flip and tail slide to the bank.
Yeah.
And so in this line, I skate 2 spots there, I guess, never been skated before. like the bank up ollie over the
like
thing.
the round thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the ledge into the bank. I'm not sure if people have skated before.
No, maybe not. Yeah.
And I was riding in front of the Eiffel Tower. So this one the other one ended up being the tech line, to be like, okay, he's just cruising, but he can also nollie straight out of a nose manual.
Yeah. Well, especially after a somewhat long line, because as you said, you had a bunch of tricks before that, and I'm sure it must have been exhausting trying that.
It was exhausting.
Yeah.
And exactly the same thing happened at Trocadero.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because for the tail slide, you land into that bank, and straight after it is a stairway.
Yep.
And it's the Eiffel Tower, so the constant flow of tourists walking up those stairs, and you can't see them. And they're going to turn in that direction and go towards the steps where the bank is. And so if I miss, I'm going to shoot them in the legs.
Yeah.
Or even if I do land it, I'm going to come down a bank and just like
run into them. Yeah.
And they don't even have time to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And again, I had a friend who stayed there and tried to stop them, but that didn't work out because for the same reason that like, who's this guy? Like he's going to try to sell me like what mini Eiffel Towers or or rob me of my money or so they just like walked past him. And so the same thing happened. I was like, okay, I'm never going to have a fucking go at the tail slide because there's always people coming up.
Mm-hmm. Was it Josh who kind of told you to film these lines over there, or was it more your idea? Because it
was my idea.
Both really busy spots, so yeah.
But I like busy spots, so I chose them partly for that.
Okay.
Because I was like, I want people in the
scenery.
I want people, or I want cars, I want something in the scenery. So I chose all these locations partly for that. Okay. But then when you're actually doing it, I mean, that's still what I do now. On every spot that I choose.
You're not going to a skate park.
It's maybe going to sound weird, but like, or cocky or whatever. But obviously, I don't do anything complicated on spot that are not very complicated. But the complicated part is usually there's always
all the other elements that
a lot of people and a lot of cars, and you have to time it, and everything needs to be aligned for that line to be like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So with these two lines, I'm stoked on them. But I remember at the time I was like exhausted of just like not even be able to try or just being nuts over it. Be like, okay, this is not even gonna work. Last hours. But it was an intense week, man.
That first line, did you do it in one day or did you have to go back to do it again?
I did those two in the same day.
Oh really? The two lines?
That was the most
shit.
The most prolific day of my entire life.
Oh yeah, they're two amazing lines, yeah.
If my memory is correct, because it's a long time, but I'm as far as I can remember, it's the same day.
Okay, yeah. And did you choose the song for your part, or was it all Josh who took care of all the editing process? Or
editing and song was Josh. After we were done filming, and I sent him some clips that I filmed elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
He was in charge of it.
Okay. He didn't ask you like what kind of music would you like or stuff like that. You just trusted him.
Maybe he did, or I'm not even sure.
Okay.
And I think at some point he had this song in mind, and he's like, okay, I tried this on your footage and it looks perfect, so we're going to use it.
Yeah, it worked pretty well, yeah.
And he might have told me before, but maybe not.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, you know what, I've seen your videos, I trust you, like do whatever you please with it. I'm not going to not going to interfere with it, you know.
Sure, yeah, you respected him and admired his work, so you were confident he was going to do a good job. And,
exactly.
Yeah. So we talked about Vivien a little bit. So you had this apartment in Paris on boulevard Magenta, so it's in the 10th arrondissement. It's in like the somewhat north of Paris. Is it close to Gare du Nord or around there?
It's very close to Gare du Nord. It's at the intersection of the 10th, the 9th, and the 18th. So it's really close to Gare du Nord, which is
one of the main train stations.
Yeah, the biggest train station. Yeah. Actually, one of the biggest in Europe, I think.
That's where you take the Eurostar and
exactly. So I was really close to London, partly for this reason, and from there it's also if you want to go to the Roissy airport, it's also there that you take the suburban trains, and there's metro lines that go all over Paris from there. Mm-hmm. So it was quite central. Yeah, in fact, even though it's like in the northeastern corner of Paris, and I loved that place.
Do you remember what year you moved into that apartment? Was that like?
That's when I moved in Paris.
Oh, okay.
I arrived in Paris. My brother had the place, and when I got here,
you were living with your brother. I don't remember. I didn't remember that. That's right.
And so when I came to Paris, we got a place for the two of us, and that's the first apartment in Paris.
And then he moved out.
And then he moved out, and Vivien moved in.
Right. Okay.
And then Vivien moved out, and I either had to find a roommate or to just leave the place. And in the end, I just left the place and found another place down the street, so in the same neighborhood.
Okay.
So I stayed in that neighborhood for like a good 10 years maybe, or something like that.
And it became a pretty famous skate house basically, where lots of friends of yours and skaters from other countries would come through and crash on your couch or stuff like that.
So yeah, since I was traveling a lot, I was meeting a lot of skaters from everywhere. And then the guys from London started coming over, and then some US guys, some people from literally like all over started coming there.
Coming through.
Because before that I was already like kind of the tour guide.
Yep.
Because I knew a lot of spots because I was traveling around the city, like cruising around the city a lot. So I knew quite a lot of spots. And I spoke decent English, and I was skating with those guys. So I just happened to be the tour guide, and at some point they just like came over and stayed at my house. Mm-hmm. And so at some point there was constantly someone staying there. I mean, at the time when I was filming for Static or Landscape, and I was traveling a lot, I was either away on a trip, or there was some people on my couch for a week. So I was like full-time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite incredible. I thought afterwards, like, why didn't I take a photo of everyone who stayed here?
Oh, yeah.
And I thought about it a lot, but I always sucked at taking photos. And I was like, damn, I'd have a portrait of
like hundreds of people. Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of famous people
at
this point, you know, like.
I wanted to ask you actually, like, can you tell me maybe some of the more most interesting, so to speak, guests that you've had over that come to mind, like in the skate industry?
I mean, I've had Kenny Reed.
Yeah, for sure.
I've had Ocean Howell.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I've had Nick Jansen, Paul Shire.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I had Rory Mlanis too, but
who skates for Palace, right?
Who skates for Palace,
right?
But he was also on Landscape, so
I think
maybe
was
at
he?
the time
Okay.
of Landscape.
I didn't remember.
And so obviously Snowy and Joey Pressey.
Mm-hmm. Who's the most
unlikely guest? Steve Brandy, Rich Adler.
Okay,
I don't know,
from the US.
From the US, who else? I don't know. I think the Tide Booth guys also stayed at my house before they started. Well, I mean, they were doing Tide Booth already, but maybe before they started Evies and stuff like that.
Okay.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
And I don't remember all of them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. So you started Magenta from that apartment, actually, or at least the name was tribute to this apartment where you and Vivien lived for a little bit together. And as we just mentioned, it was like this huge like skate hub for many skaters from all over the world. So yeah, tell me a little bit about founding the brand. And I was interested in asking you also, because you said in that Big Spin interview again, you talked about two traumatic experiences that you went through at that time, one in India and one in Barcelona.
True.
The one in Barcelona, I think, was a car crash on a spot that you were skating.
Yeah.
And the one in India was like a, how do you say?
Terrorist attack.
Exactly, yeah. And so apparently after those really, I'm sure, awful experiences, you pretty much figured like, I just want to do something that I really enjoy doing because life is short, it's super fragile, and I'm not going to waste my time doing a shitty job that I don't give a shit about. And so was that kind of at that time that you decided to start this board brand?
Magenta started like maybe a year or something after that, but it was like in the same area.
Okay.
But basically I was finishing my studies. By that time, maybe I guess I was done with my studies, and my dad was pressing for me to get a regular job at a bank or something like that. And I was like, damn, I have no
like
desire
normal,
whatsoever
so to speak,
to do
job.
this, you know?
Yeah.
But the Static part was out already.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's already the top of my dream. I've not dreamt further than that.
Yeah.
I've had a big part in an US video that was of international recognition, the peak of my career.
You already turned pro?
I turned pro. I make about 500 euros a month. I'm like, okay, I'm at the peak of my career. I'm making $500. Maybe it's, as much as I hate it, maybe it's time that
I started looking for a job.
That I get a job. Mm-hmm. That I become kind of sort of adult.
Did you call Jeremy at Cliché or?
No. But and then on one of the trips, like the thing in Barcelona, this car just like landed from the sky, exactly where I was trying a trick.
That's crazy.
And I just gave up on that trick. I was walking away from the exact location where I was trying this kickflip, and I hear this noise, and I turn around, and there's literally like a car dropping from the sky and land there.
Damn.
And I'm like, fuck, if I'd given like one more try, I'd be under the car and killed by car from
no more soy
falling from the sky, like literally out of nowhere. You can't like foresee it.
That's crazy.
And the one in India was like I organized the trip with Josh. So this was already during the filming of Static.
Right.
And yeah, coming back to the hotel, and we came back like 10 or 15 minutes or 20 minutes maybe after there was a terrorist attack at the foot of the hotel in a restaurant in an area where we would go check the emails, eat. And I was like, well, if we'd been like 15 minutes early, we'd be like right there, and it'd be done.
Yeah.
And so yeah, those two experiences, I was like, okay, like I can literally die at whatever minute by some kind of chance occurrence. And so it's like, if this is gonna be the case, then yeah, I don't want to do a job that I don't want.
Yeah.
You know, to be
waste
like,
your time.
To be like, okay, I'm gonna save money from where I'm older, and then everything disappears. And like, no, I can't do that. You can always argue like both ways, but that's what triggered us. Like, okay, no, I'm not gonna take a job. I'm gonna do this. Yeah,
you need to do something that has purpose and that makes you happy, basically.
And yes, soon after that, in 2009, we started talking with Vivien about it.
Okay.
I mean, he talked about it to me because that was his idea.
Oh, it was his idea at first. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, you can draw. We can try this, and we did. I didn't believe in it, and in my experience, with the exception of Cliché, every board brand was pretty much lasting 2 years.
Yeah.
Like Tikal was pretty much 2 years. Then came Mechanism that lasted maybe 1 year. Then Minutia was like 2 years. Landscapes was longer, but when I left, not one left, but like Joy Pressican also left, and Snowy left, and Rory left.
Okay.
So it's kind of going down a little bit too.
Yeah. It's a hard business. Yeah, it's difficult
to make it last. It's actually a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, in my experience, like a brand lasts about 2 years. So I'm like, ours is going to be no exception. We can do that. It's going to be fun, but in 2 years, it's done.
So you were starting already anticipating that this wouldn't last longer than 2 years, or
yeah, it was like it'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
It's
like it's gonna be fun, but it's not gonna be a long-term thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Was Vivien? Did he agree with you, or was he more confident that it could work on the longer term?
I'm not sure what he really thought about, or what he really thought of this.
Yeah.
He was just like, yeah, whatever, let's just do it.
Let's give it a try. Yeah.
Let's give it a try. If it fails, it fails. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, let's not even think about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure, okay, why not? And I know that by that time, of course, I was friends with Josh Stewart in the US. I had gone to Japan a few times. I was there for the Static 3 premiere in Japan, and during my first trip there, I met the guy who was distributing Landscape. And so when we started Magenta, already this guy in Japan, Uru, was like, okay, I want to distribute your brand in Japan.
In Japan, yeah.
And Josh was like, yeah, I'll take some boards, and I want to expand the website, because at this time this website was mostly
Theories of Atlantis.
Yeah, it was mostly selling DVDs. But since the same year, in 2010, 3 European brands came up. Yeah. Palace, Polar, and Magenta, all from friends of his. So it was like, yeah, I'll expand my website and take boards from you guys. And start like Theories distribution. And so all of a sudden, we're distributing in Japan and the US. Yeah. And I'm like, damn, like that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. 2 major markets for skateboarding, for sure.
And yeah, surprisingly, it lasted longer than we expected.
It's been going on so 2010 was the year you launched, right? Yeah. So it's 12 years.
12 years now, yeah. Yeah, we didn't have much of an idea of what we were doing at the time. A lot of times I'm still like this. Like you just like learn everything along the way.
Well, yeah.
Because your activity develops. You start doing new things. You start making clothing. And it's like, I don't know anything about this. Before that, I didn't know. I stopped drawing for a long time, so I was not even drawing much at the time. I was picking up drawing again on paper. I had no idea how Photoshop or Illustrator works, and I had to learn Photoshop in order to like make printable graphics. Okay. And so I learned that, and then the more things you do, the more you learn, and you constantly learning and constantly saying like, okay, I don't even know what I'm doing right now. Yeah. But I'm going to figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll try to figure it out. Yeah. And so when you started, how did you decide who was going to do what with Vivien? Because you just said you were focusing, and you still are focusing on the art direction. And what would you say Vivien's role is? Is he more like a finance guy, sort of, or manager? He's the brand manager. So he's going to do also the financial aspect of it. Okay. But he oversees everything. So he's also going to do a little bit of art direction, of brand image, or he's doing also social media. He's like editing videos. He's doing a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And his brother Jean was like straight away like doing stock. At first he was supposed to be filmer and photographer because he was really good at that and handle the stock. But his passion with the photography and the filming kind of faded. And so basically he was like focusing on the shipments and
like more logistics. And
exactly.
Okay.
And we started, we were 3. Leo was our first rider.
Right. So it was you, Vivien, and Leo were the first 3 pros for Magenta. And then who were some of the next riders?
The 4th one was Jimmy Lannon.
From Florida, right?
Yes, from Florida. We had some like common friends. He was king for Element at the time and was not very happy. And
he had a good part in that Element video. I don't remember the name, but
maybe Elementality or
something like that.
And he was getting super good. And our common friend Steve Brandy was like, okay, he's really psyched on Magenta, and you should like, because I was really close friends with. I'm still really close friends with Steve, and he knew Jimmy really well. So it was like, okay, like this guy is. And it's like, wow, really, like skates for Element.
Yeah,
what is he gonna do with a small like French brand?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we talked to him, and he was like keen, and he got on.
You also got Ben Gore, I think, at the very beginning or very early stages, or
a little bit later, because we were skating. I met Ben when I was in Miami filming for Static with Josh.
Oh, okay.
Because he was kind of a tour guide.
I didn't remember he was from.
He was like 19
Florida.
Or something. I think he was skating on World Industries or something at the time.
Okay.
After World, because of course he was not very hyped on World.
Yeah.
And then he got on Stereo.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd go to San Francisco. Sometimes he'd come to Paris. So we started skating together. Sometimes we just like bumped into him. Like straight after Miami, I went to San Francisco and I bumped into him there.
Mm-hmm.
And we had some common friends. And he was skating for Stereo. And it kind of felt like the company was not really going anywhere anymore, or kind of also changing the direction.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, like we're always getting together. You enjoy coming here. Like this is what you like to do, so just come over.
Yeah.
And at some point, it's like, okay, yeah, fuck it, I'll do this.
It made more sense for him.
Yeah. I think after Jimmy was Zach Lyons.
Yes, I was gonna mention him. Yeah.
Then Glenn
Fox.
Glenn Fox was buying stuff from the website.
Really? That's how you found him?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He was
amazing.
Like buying stuff, and at some point he asked Vivien, because we were going to Japan. He was like, "Oh, if you go to Japan, can you bring me something from TVPR?"
Mm-hmm.
And he passed through Bordeaux. Vivien was already living in Bordeaux at that time.
Right. Yeah.
And Glenn was like going to Spain for a month or 2, or maybe 6 months, maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
And he passed through Bordeaux on the way in, and met Vivien and Leo and these guys, and then went to Spain. And then on the way back, he was like picking up where Vivien had brought him. And Vivien saw him skate and saw him paint and do stuff. He's like, damn, this kid is really sick.
He's rad.
We knew him only from being a customer. He was like always buying stuff on the website and stuff.
Yeah. Wasn't he sponsored at that time?
He was sponsored by Jersey brands.
Okay.
From his friends, which are they're sick brands, but are pretty much like Jersey based, and they don't do outreach.
Okay.
But yeah, he went from like being a guy who buys on the website, and he made me like, Jim, actually, you're really sick. You should just skate for us.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's a special talent for sure. Quickest feet, some of the quickest feet in the skateboarding.
And just a super good vibe too. He's like, always stoked and smiling wherever you take him. He's like, okay, kid, let's skate. So there was this, and then when the Tight Booth guys came over, we saw Koichiro skate. And it was fucking amazing. So like, okay. And it's possible that they came already with that intent in mind to like kind of, they wanted to be affiliated with it and put Koichiro on. And we saw Koichiro, we're like, okay, yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Who are some of the most recent additions to the team? I think, I don't know if he's a recent one, but one of the last parts I've seen for Magenta was Shogo Zama.
Yes.
Is that how you say his name?
Shogo Zama, yes.
Yeah. From Japan?
He's from Japan.
Really good style, really good trick selection and spot selection.
Very heavy skater, he skates a lot.
Was he recently?
That's quite recent.
The team recently? Okay.
I mean, I met him like years ago because we had the same clothing sponsor in Japan, Remila. Okay. He was skating for them, and so I was like, I kind of had my eye on him, and possibly likewise,
What about Gunas Ozdogan? Is he? Because I see a lot of people also rocking like the Magenta gear or boards, but sometimes I'm not too sure if they're actually pro for the brand or if they're just homies, or like Sergio Cadare from Bordeaux. So like, how do you distinguish kind of the, so to speak, official team and then the homies?
Yeah, we don't really make much of a difference. I mean, at some point, I think it has a lot to do with your own behavior. If you behave like a pro, then you become pro. Like, I think it's one misconception in skateboarding, then people turn you pro. I mean, in a certain way they do, but it's basically based on your own
motivation,
behavior. If you understand how you can be useful for a company, for the brand, then it's like, it becomes natural.
Yeah.
So, like Ganesh was like a recent addition. Casey Foley in Australia.
Yes. Oh, I'm hyped on him. He's super sick.
He's incredible
skater.
Like one of the nicest guys as well.
Yeah.
Jamil Douglas in San Francisco.
Yes.
Also an
he had a part
skater.
recently, right?
Yes, we did like a small like
SF
SF section
with
Bangor. Jesse Narvaez, who's one of his close friends too, and we've been like long-time friends with him since the San Francisco Illustrated Blues.
Oh yeah.
We met obviously a lot of people there and got a lot of good friends. Ruben Spelta from Milan. He's been skating for us for a long time and
just turned pro recently.
And we did a board because his style is so magical. We're like, okay,
he's a special talent.
Exactly.
He's very graceful and really like his style.
For sure. It's a lot of people basically.
Yeah.
So it's hard to.
So you don't have like a super rigid program, so to speak, where you're like, okay, this is the A team, this is the B team.
Not really. I mean, they're all like friends. I mean, sometimes I guess in people they want to move up. They're like, okay, like I want a pro board, which I understand.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're like, well, there's like 10 people already.
Yeah.
How do you count? It's difficult to make like 10 pro boards. It's like we're not a giant company.
Yeah.
We're still like only 4 running the brand. I mean, mostly 3.
Yeah.
Still Jean, Vivien, and me, with Leo helping out quite a lot with video editing.
I didn't know that.
But Vivien is still doing a lot of video editing. But it's mostly like 3 people working non-stop on it. Which is not a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. You just mentioned Vivien and Leo. They're both in Bordeaux, but you're still in Paris. And I was wondering, did you ever think about moving over there, or did you think about maybe because I believe that the headquarters, so to speak, of Magenta are in Bordeaux?
Nowadays, yes.
So did you think at some point that you would move out there, or are you like, do you like Paris too much, or what's basically your...
I did think about it for a minute, and I actually did it for a minute.
Okay.
I moved there in 15 maybe, but I stayed for 1 year. And actually in this 1 year I was going back and forth Paris, and actually being in Paris a lot, or going somewhere else, or going to see my parents, and so in the end I was in Bordeaux like 3 days a month. So I can say that in total I lived there for like 33 days.
Okay.
And then I realized, well, like there's so much stuff that I have to do either in Paris, or if I go to see my parents, it's close to Paris. And I really love Paris. A lot of my really good friends are here. And I'm like, okay, my
made more sense
here.
To stay here. Isn't it, so to speak, a problem in the sense that you're over here and they're over there? Obviously today with the internet and everything, it's much easier to share information and everything, and you can work on your graphics from here and whatever. But
for this part, it's easy for sure.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of problems from not being centralized.
Well,
everything takes a bit more time. Even communication, even though it's like instant, you're not constantly with someone around, or so this part is a
little bit tricky.
It's for sure slower, and also the difficult part is to have your team scattered all over the world.
Oh yeah,
like we have people in Japan, in Australia, in Sweden, in Jersey Island, or London, or Paris, or Bordeaux, or Milan, or San Francisco, Miami. So whatever project you work on, you have to organize something, and it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so, for brands where everyone in the brand is in the same place, it's going to be much easier for any video project, any photo shoot, anything. Like it's. So I mean, there's pros and cons for sure, but
it's worked out so far. Yeah,
it worked out so far. Yeah. It's not something that we planned either. It's just like we met people and they're like-minded and like, okay, let's do something, whatever. We'll find a way. But for sure, there's a lot of stuff that's more complicated.
Yeah. ask you just about the artistic side. You mentioned earlier that you were drawing when you were younger, then you kind of stopped and focused on skating for a long time. And then when you were starting Magenta, you got back into drawing and making art.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you tell me about like getting back into it and kind of how you would define your style? Because from what I've seen from your work on board graphics and everything that you've been doing with Magenta, you seem to draw lots of like animals and geometrical forms, shapes. But can you tell me about starting to draw again and how you've kind of figured out your style as an artistic director, basically?
Well, I'm not sure I figured out my style.
Still a work in progress?
Yes, I still have no clue what I'm doing. I mean, I do have a certain clue. But yeah, basically I stopped drawing when I discovered skating.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the longest time I wasn't drawing. And then through Benjamin Debert, I met Stefan Marx. And he was doing like these little zines, and he was not as known as he now, but he was already like starting to be recognized a bit, and doing a lot of drawings. I didn't really know who he was, but I looked at his drawings and liked a lot of it. I'm like, wow, this is really sick.
Yeah.
And I told him like, it's funny. Yeah, I used to draw a lot. And he was just like, all right, well,
do it again. Yeah.
Just do it again. Like take this little notepad and start drawing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, why not? And started drawing a little bit, but I was like out of practice. And so I just started like, I don't know, trying to draw everything, like people on the street or whatever, like people. And that's when we started Magenta, and I was like, okay, I gotta go a lot more into that.
Mm-hmm.
And after a while, I guess animals were easier to draw.
How so?
Because they don't have to look too exactly. Maybe I was too concerned in doing like something kind of realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't think of a style. I'm like, okay, I need to try and draw this.
Yeah.
Or to draw this person. But then when you miss the portrait of someone, it kind of looks like shit, and it's very visible. For the animals were easier.
Yeah, okay.
No one's coming to complain.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess I always liked the, I don't know, weird geometrical 3D kind of stuff. I don't even know why I was drawn to it, but But then for God knows what reason, I started to associate them. And then I was like, okay, what does it mean? Why do I draw this? Why do other people not draw animals in geometric shapes?
Yeah.
What can it mean? And trying to understand.
Yeah, the thought process.
The thought process behind it.
Yeah.
And I came up with one theory about my own work. And then I tried to explore that one theory. Like, where does it lead me?
Okay.
And so I guessed or figured that I was trying to represent the human mind, the fact that we're animals with a capacity of abstraction.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess those are the two parts of the animal and geometric shapes things, and so it started to tap into consciousness and subconscious thinking, and with imagination, and from this the visions from like visionary plants and stuff like that. Because I was always like curious about this too, that people could have visions. You'd read about this somewhere, or there was something magical. Be like, well, you see another, like a different reality, like what the fuck is this? And so I got interested in that, and then from then I was interested in like kind of optical illusions or of some kind of sorts of like to draw the imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And also I was always like I've always been fascinated by the concept of yin and yang, the fact that such a simple graphic could contain so much. You can apply it to pretty much anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Anything fits into this one image. And I was always been also very dualistic for a lot of reasons. The fact that I'm half French, half Indian. The fact that my dad he defines himself as a Hindu Protestant, where my mom is Catholic.
Okay.
So there's like two religions, two different countries of two very different cultures, two very different level of wealth. Because one is a developed country, the other one is third world.
Yeah.
Both my parents have very different health conditions. My mom has a very rare and terrible genetic disease.
Okay.
My dad is surprisingly young for his age.
Okay.
And then other parts of it, I've seen the two ends of a lot of, not a lot, but I mean of some worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Like for skating, I was a fan of skating, reading magazines, and then I went to the other side and was in the magazines and in the things. I've watched movies, and then we made movies, and I was on a TV screen somewhere. I feel like I've been behind some scenes. I've been behind like fashion photo shoots and stuff that you normally see on a billboard or something. So there was always like an element of duality, and I was fascinated by the yin and yang. And so to go back to the drawing process, the artistic process, I realized that it's really guesswork. I don't know if I realize anything, but my guess is that I like to try and draw what's happening on that curvy line between the yin and the yang. That means between the day and night. That means where dreams happen, for example, where you see like weird shit that are half mythological or symbolic, or it's a mix of everything. It's kind of a strange place. It's the Twilight Zone. I liked the Twilight Zone when I was a kid, you know, that show. It's a reality that is kind of strange, and like the frontier is like kind of
shady
And I was always fascinated by that, and then looking at what I do and the direction that it took, I'm like, well, it looks like this is what I'm trying to draw.
Yeah.
And so the more I think this, I'm like, okay, I want to explore that. Then I've got to zoom in on that frontier and try to see what's happening there.
Okay.
There's also a part where when you do a brand and when you develop a certain idea, or I can't really talk of a style because contrary to a lot of people, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing, but I'm not sure I have one style. I have a certain style of idea that I'm going to express, but it's always going to be expressed differently.
Yeah.
The style of drawing is going to be different, and I'm not sure I have like one style of drawing. Whenever you see a drawing of Marc Gonzalez, you can recognize, okay, it's Marc Gonzalez. His line, or same with Stefan Marx, or basically with anyone who's smart, they're going to do it. It's recognizable. And for me, the only thing that's recognizable is like the idea behind it.
Okay, it's more the idea
continuity
than the
in the
drawing
idea,
itself.
But exactly. And so at the same time, like Magenta has its own identity. I have my own ideas that I want to draw, and at some point, you have to think about what you're drawing. Is it really, should I just draw this on my personal stuff and have something? So I'm trying kind of to separate the two, at least to a certain extent. But then since there's not much time and I'm doing a lot of stuff, I'm doing a lot of work, it's hard to separate these because there's stuff that I want to say. And I'm like, okay, at this point, that's my canvas. And so I need to put a bit of it in it.
You mentioned that Magenta started at the same, maybe not the exact same time, but at least the same year than Palace and Polar, which are all still super legit brands today, and that really shook things up in the skate industry, because before that, there were a few brands in America who were basically dominating the whole market.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these brands come out of nowhere and are kind of bedroom brands, so to speak, and become these enormous brands, and still have kind of a really underground like identity and sponsoring skaters that are not the regular kind of US tech skater or whatever. There's really a very specific identity to each brand. I'm just curious to ask you about, like, at what point did you realize that Magenta was becoming something bigger than just this small project that you had started with Vivien? And at what point did you realize, like, oh shit, like this is actually becoming super well known, and like people know about it in the US, and it's like super legit now. It's not just this little thing that we started for fun.
Well, like that happened quite quickly after the start, because straight away Josh was interested. Right. Uru in Japan was interested. A few people, like every week, like Vivien was dealing with all this. Like every week was like, okay, someone ordered boards in this country, or they on this place or this place. And so it's like, oh yeah, really? Like, yeah, I could see that people knew it pretty much instantly. Like we got a bunch of magazine interviews about us starting the brand. Like we could very quickly feel that there was an international interest in the brand, but at the same time we're not paying ourselves at that point. Yeah. So at the same time you feel that there's something happening, but it's like you don't see the profits. Ungraspable, because you're like, I'm still making no money and doing this out of passion, and it might fall out in 6 months for whatever reason. So I felt it quickly, but I couldn't grasp it.
Okay. Now that it's been 12 years and you said that you thought it would only last maybe 2 or 3 years, are you more confident about it lasting a bit longer, or are you still kind of in that state of mind where, oh, maybe in 6 months we'll just stop it, or are you a bit more like, we might actually keep this going for another 3 years or something? Or
I'm more confident now because I understand more of how things work and what makes a brand successful, what makes it disappear. I don't understand everything, of course.
No, of course.
Otherwise, we'd be a lot stronger. Or maybe not, because we also do the brand that we want to do, which is not a very big one. Or
exactly, yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't have that. I'm not thinking like, okay, it might stop in 6 months. Even though it might happen there's plenty of reasons for something to fuck up. Yeah, oh yeah. And we've actually almost, as a company, we almost died like 3 times maybe already.
Really? Okay. Can you talk about it? Was maybe COVID one of those? Or?
No, there was earlier than that. The first time was maybe some exchange rate.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because our entire production was in the US, boards and clothing, and on our biggest order to date for that time. By the time we ordered and the time that we had to actually pay the invoice, the dollar grew. Exploded.
Okay.
And for a month you kind of wish for it to go down, and it doesn't. And then at some point you have to pay an extra 30,000.
Oh.
And you're like, oh shit, like okay.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out a way to like get money, borrow money, like do some shit.
Okay.
But yeah, that was one of them, and then some other stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a bunch of times where it was really like for a reason that you hadn't thought of, predicted.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could as well stop in 6 months.
Yeah. Well, you can't predict the future for sure.
But without this, I'm like, okay, no, it should last a few years, you know.
And so, what are some of the projects that you're working on right now? Like, you went to Marseille recently. Leo was in Strasbourg for a few days, and you said you were going somewhere else very soon. I don't remember where it was.
Right now, I'm leaving on a holiday that has nothing to do with this. Yeah.
Not a
but yeah, trip. We're working on working is one of the words. It's always kind of a weird word to apply to skating.
To apply to skating.
Yeah. We're planning to release a new full-length video in the early next year. Yeah, we've had a bunch of people come over here.
Yeah, Sergio.
Last summer, and then this summer again. And basically now that the process is launched, we're like, okay, let's have more people come and film more stuff and try to do like a sick video. So we're doing a Just Cruise 2.
Oh, nice.
The follow-up to Just Cruise, which was like for us, it was a good video.
Yeah, it was an amazing video for sure. We're going to wrap it up with the friends' questions. I just have one last question from me, which is basically, what's the most valuable lesson that you feel you've learned from skateboarding?
The most valuable lesson from skating? I guess that when you fall, you get back up. That's one of them.
Like persistence?
Persistence. I mean, skateboarding also taught me work, because before that I was not a very good student, not paying attention, wouldn't be very good at memorizing courses and stuff like that. But I could memorize anything related to skating.
Yeah.
And I was pretty much idle and doing only skating after my studies for like nearly 5-6 years. Just traveling, skating, and not doing much. And I always saw myself as being pretty lazy. And then when you start Magenta, you start working
a lot. Yeah.
And then you become not a workaholic, but you just work pretty much constantly. If I take a week of holiday in the year, I'm psyched.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's a labor of love. Yeah, it's definitely.
And so he told me that if it's not inherited that you're lazy or you're a worker. If you
just have to find something that you love doing.
Something you love, it's like the gap between work and pleasure becomes a lot more shady.
Of course, yeah.
Which has also pros and cons, because then you just work all the time.
Yeah, and you don't take vacation.
And you don't take vacation. And at some point you're like, shit, I should take vacation. I need the change of air for 1 week. And obviously I can't complain about it, because I'm like, I love what I do.
Yeah.
Like I love doing it. But at the same time you do it like
non-stop.
12 months, like non-stop. Sometimes you work on Sundays, sometimes you work late evenings, like you know. Usually on the holiday I would take my computer and still work a little bit. That frontier is also very out of focus. And at some point you're like, I feel like I do actually need a break.
I
need to be able to take 1 week somewhere.
All right, let's wrap it up with the friends' questions. So this one is from Foss, from Mark Foster, from Heroin and from Landscape. Yeah. So he said, we used to bomb hills around his house at night and go to a really crappy fast food place called Beep Burger or BIP Burger.
Beep Burger.
Yeah. Maybe you can ask him the last time he ate at Beep Burger.
Very simple. The last time was at my place.
Oh, okay.
It was pretty much the last place open by my house. Okay. So we would cruise late at night, and that was the last place open. It was a really crappy burger place.
Yeah. The next one is audio. Let's see.
Hey Soy, how are you? I was wondering, when is the next art show coming up? I really hope to see you soon. Miss you. Bye.
It's Stéphane Marx. We mentioned him earlier.
That's another very good question. I mean, I really want to do one, but basically for the reason that I don't have much time, and I don't have, for anything I do, especially with the board graphics and stuff, I also have to be quick with that, because I'm late and there's a lot of clothing to do and other shit, so I can devote less and less time to it, kind of. And so I kind of figured out a process that makes it quick, which is to draw on the first sheet of paper that appears in front of my desk. Sometimes it's an envelope, and I sketch an idea, and then I scan it, and I vectorize it, and then I do the colors.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna draw something else, and I do the assembling on Photoshop. And so because of this, I don't have an original of it. And since there's not much time, I haven't had time to make new originals.
Okay.
And so that's something I really want to do because I miss this a lot and I enjoy having art shows and stuff. And I'd like to have one next year. Mm-hmm. But I know I need to start from scratch and be like, okay, I need to free some time in order to do those.
Yeah, okay.
So maybe next year. Hopefully.
Okay, next one is from Michael Macrot.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked a few things. I'll just ask you 2 quick questions from him. He said, if you had to move to India for a few years, which region would you choose and why? You've been a few times, right?
I've been many times, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm always staying in the north at my parents' place.
Okay.
And yeah, I can't say I've done
much more traveling tourism around there.
I mean, I've been to a few places, but I don't know them so well. So I guess I would say either Delhi or Mumbai.
Okay.
But most likely, realistically, I'd move maybe to my parents' town to see my parents and help them out or whatever.
Yeah. A comfortable place for you.
At least a place where I can be useful.
Yeah. And he said, this is also about India actually, he said, would it be acceptable to do a hippie jump over a cow in India like Sylvain did in Palestine, I think, from a religious point of view? I guess he means Sylvain Tonieli.
Yeah, I guess he's...
Yeah. I don't remember him doing that, but yeah.
I don't either, but why not? Yeah, I'm not sure it would be very accepted.
Tolerated, yeah. They're really like sacred over there, and you don't touch them or whatever.
Yeah, you're supposed to let them live, and they're sacred, but like in a very Indian way, because they're basically they eat trash out of the ground and they eat plastic and all this shit. So you're sacred, but basically we're gonna feed you our trash and we're gonna take your milk.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like India is a very strange place. It's quite fucked up.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. All right, so this one is another audio question.
Yo, Soy, I hope you're good and the ankle is getting better. For the question, I was thinking about who is your top 3 best nose mani skater of all time. If you can answer that, that will be fun. Good luck.
Bastien Rogest, who makes also the beer videos and stuff. So, nose mani skater. I was thinking about this when he sent it. I was like, this is difficult. Because you're definitely in there for me.
Well, let's say there's me.
me,
me.
Does
it count as one? If it does, that's going to be a lot easier. Well, me and Shinpei Ueno, of course. Mm-hmm. He's doing a lot of really good nose manuals. And
I thought about Kenny Anderson. It's because of the nose manual in One Step Beyond.
Yeah, the super long.
Yeah. But I don't know if he actually does a lot of nose manual in his skating. I mean,
he does, but there's a lot of kickflip nose manuals. Yeah. There's a lot of manuals in general.
Right.
But someone like me who's gonna do only a nose manual.
I was thinking about Huff as well. I thought
Huff. There was a lot of manuals.
Yeah.
Gap 2 manuals also, and. I don't know. I can name only 2 and then one of them. That sucks.
You can be twice.
Okay, there's me, Shinpei, and me.
All right, this next one is from we mentioned him earlier, Casey Foley. Mm-hmm. He said the plant logo is really prominent in 90% of Magenta's gear, and the iconic logo is recognized in skateboarding all across the globe. I heard in an interview that you talked about when you wear the plant logo, you're contributing to the growth of the plant or the growth of mankind. Could you talk a bit more about this concept?
So for the growth of mankind, which is maybe like a kind of a grand formula, I'm not that serious that everything should be taken literal, but for the same thing as drawing, I try to understand my logo after I made it. Yeah. I'm like, okay, what does it mean? Why am I drawing this? Because it came kind of naturally, and I was like, okay, like I'm doing this plant with one leaf that is different. And so the focus of that different leaf seemed to represent the individual, like the individual branch or leaf in the branch.
Right.
And so the shine of a certain individual in the group, and that individual can be anyone in the team, for example. Everyone is that special branch that is bringing his own flavor, his own color to the whole. And the fact that it's a plant, and what plant does is grow. So I guess the contribution of that one individual serves the growth of the entire plant. So the idea is that everyone should contribute to the best of their abilities, not in an individualistic way, but like
more in a collective.
With collective values. Be like, okay, together, if we all bring our contribution, then we can make it grow and become like a healthy tree or whatever. And the tree is like, I mean, you can go on forever because a tree hosts life. For example, the bigger the tree is, the more there's going to be birds on it. So if you can like contribute to that, then it benefits everywhere. And so in a certain way, you can extend it to like mankind. If everyone does this everywhere. But I'm not trying to say, okay, we contribute to mankind with Magenta.
Of course, that's not in a very literal way, of course.
That's not the point, but the point is like, okay, like everyone should contribute to the best of what they could to whatever is around, so that it grows in like in a healthy tree.
Let's see. Kenny Reed, he said, ask him if he remembers skating with me in SF next to Rainbow in the parking lot.
Next to Rainbow, is that a person?
I don't know. He said next to Rainbow, and there's like a capital R to Rainbow, so I'm not sure if it's an actual rainbow or like a place.
Maybe he's talking about the DMV spot.
Yeah.
Because there's a parking lot. I'm not sure I remember that one, Kenny. I remember a lot of it, and I remember the first time I went to his place, and I didn't really know him and met him very briefly in Paris. I was a fan. I was impressed, you know. So that was my first time in San Francisco. I was there for a month. I was like, oh man, he lives there. I was staying with Richard Hart's place. Kind of saved our life. I didn't know him before. And we had some housing troubles. And he was like, okay, you can stay at my house. And he was like, okay, but you can stay a couple of days because in 2 days I'm going to Asia on this trip for like a month or two with Kenny Reed and some other guys. All of a sudden I'm like, what? So Kenny Reed is leaving for a month? I'm here for a month. One of my dreams was to skate with Kenny here.
Yeah.
And then Kenny shows up in the apartment with his friend Travis Graves.
Okay.
Another really good skater. And so they both showed up, and I was like, at the same time, like
starstruck. Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, you're actually leaving tomorrow. I'm here for a month.
Like bummed. Yeah.
Bummed. Yeah. And so that was my first memory of like being in San Francisco. I remember also drinking sake with Kenny in San Francisco. And
was it a good experience? Or
yeah, pretty much every experience. I've had a lot of experience with Kenny, and they were all good. they all make like good, very good memories. But the Rainbow parking lot, which I'm guessing is the DMV parking lot, I remember being there with Vivien and with a filmer who was formerly filming for 4-on-1, but I can't remember Kenny being there. Sorry, Kenny, that's the only memory of you that I don't have.
Shit, he selected the exact one. He asked also, ask him about the models party we went to while we were in Goa, India. Do you remember that one?
So basically, when you go to India, like especially the parts of where I'm from, there's literally no alcohol. It's not advertised. It's really hard to buy it, or you have to drink it in secret, or it's not a part of the culture. And then all of a sudden we go to Goa, and there I sit on billboards. It's like the Ibiza of India, and I'm like, and some guy in the street like comes up to us, like, hey, there's this party there. It's like he hands out flyers.
Okay.
And on it was a free entrance for models.
Okay.
And I guess the same month, Kenny and I had a photo in a magazine somewhere, maybe an ad for Planet Earth or something. We were kind of modeling. We're like, well, maybe you can pull it off, you know, like let's try it. And so we went and we did pull it off. We got in there. It was like free alcohol all night long. There was 3 bars of like free alcohol. I'm like, is this India? Like it is.
Yeah.
This is as far as possible as
from what you had been experiencing before.
What I've experienced there my whole life.
Yeah.
I think it was the party was hosted by Russian people, and there's a lot of models, and the thing turned into like a rave somewhere. We were riding on scooters, and for this, I think it was him driving on the way back. Wow. Yeah, that was pretty intense. And I think we tried again. There was another one of these parties a few days later.
Okay.
We're like, well, we'll pull it off when we can do it. Yeah. Again. We'll bring the magazine again.
Yeah.
And the second time, the guy was like, that doesn't work.
Did they recognize you from the first time, or did they?
Possibly.
Okay. They're like, no, these guys are not actually.
Yeah, this is not modeling, guys. That's not what we understand by models.
Okay, this one is from Raphael Zarka. He said, "Hi Soy, I think we were both fans of the sculpture in Saint-Germain-des-Prés in Paris. How many tries did it take you to do the nollie heel you did there? And what are your favorite tricks that have been done there?" So for people who are listening, it's like a sculpture. There's some water beneath it, and
it's like a quite big metal structure. Yeah. It's like a kind of a volcano made of metal banks with really kind of sharp angles. And
and there's water
underneath,
thin, right? The
I mean, they move a little bit at the very top. But,
yeah. Pretty unstable.
And,
I mean, I've never skated them, but I'm sure it must be a little scary, yeah.
And yeah, I've always loved that spot. The first photo I saw of this spot was a double spread in Transworld of this French guy called Yorgo Touplas.
Okay.
And he was doing an indie grab at the very top, and on the photo it looks like he's landing on the other bank.
Oh yeah.
In front of it, I'm like, this is impossible. And actually he lands on the ground, but like I don't even know how he got the speed to do it.
Yeah.
Like, the photo was crazy, and I was like, okay, this is amazing.
Was it a make, or was it maybe just?
I guess it's a make. It's before it was before my time in Paris.
Okay.
And then I went there and skated a few times. I had a photo doing a kickflip on the biggest bank.
Yep.
This was in a British magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went there with Benjamin and did the tray flip, which is
maybe there's a cool picture of that. Yeah.
Likely the best photo I ever shot.
Yeah.
Is this
it's
one?
It's a really good one. Yeah.
And it ended up being also a double spread in Transworld.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on, I had to shoot a photo for maybe Skateboarder mag, or can't remember which mag it is.
Okay.
And I went there and did a nollie heel flip.
Nollie heel to fakie, right?
Nollie heel to fakie, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think every time I've been there and tried it, every time my board fell in the water. So you have to kind of dry it up.
Yeah, you can't skate it immediately after. Yeah.
The kickflip didn't take so long. Tray flip took a long time just because I was scared. And so I would land one foot on the board every try for like 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And then Benjamin's like, come on, man, you don't miss a tray flip.
Yeah.
And you've been landing perfectly one foot on. Just put the other foot on.
Yeah, you need to commit. Yeah.
You need to commit at some point. Like, come on. At the time, I would literally never miss a tray flip on flat ground.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I got this. And so after like 3 or something hours, I'm like, okay, dude, like people are not going to wait for you forever.
Yeah,
like,
you need to do it now.
And so I put my feet on and I landed primo. And luckily I didn't hurt myself. But I'm like,
did you fall
fuck.
from...
I kind of slid down and avoided every trap there was that I could have really fucked myself on.
Yeah, you can really get fucked up on that thing.
But then it took me, of course, another like hour and a half or 2 hours to like commit again because
you were scared.
Was like, fuck, man, if it's fucking scary. And the heel flip, I don't remember if it took so long, but I do remember that my board went in the water. And yeah, everything's kind of scary, and also like the run up is kind of a nightmare. Yeah. You have to come from really far, push really fast in an alleyway, and you have to cross a road, and you don't see pedestrians coming from one way, you don't see the light even, or the cars coming, and then you have to ollie up a curb, go on. So it's like it's really tiring, and sometimes you're pushing super fast, and then someone comes in your way, or a car's coming, you have to. So it's a difficult spot.
Yeah,
well, for me, it was a difficult spot.
Do you have another trick that comes to mind? You mentioned the ollie, the indie grab. Is there another one that comes to mind, maybe?
Tavu did the pivot to fakie.
Yep.
Remy Tavera did something really sick there. Did like a shove it hippie jump coming the other way around, like a cross. Under the big bang, he did some like shove it hippie jump, which is completely nuts.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure what else has been done on that.
All right, next question. Leo Valls. Yo Soy, you're one of these people that inspire others to travel and explore. Can you tell us which places were the most inspiring to visit from a personal point of view and also for your skateboarding?
Likely Japan.
For skateboarding?
Or both, because for skating, for how a certain category of skaters view skating, and the fact that there was a lot of, at least to a certain extent, like-minded people. Mm-hmm. Or really focused on a certain idea of street skating and making videos and stuff, and seeing the way they do it, seeing their relation to work and their relation to everything. Like they're basically good at everything they do. They work a lot.
Perfectionists.
They're perfectionists. Like everything they touch, there's gonna be the best version of whatever it is that. And whatever the design, city planning, like anything. And the people are super nice. Food is amazing. Like it's super modern. There's like crazy spots. It's really hard to skate them because you get 2 tries, you get kicked out everywhere. Like it was always very interesting, and I love going there always. So I'd say probably that.
Japan,
which is likely the same for Leo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because he's been we've been.
He lived out there for a bit, right?
He did stay there for not a year. He was planning on a year, but I think he stayed like 3 to 6 months. But yeah, we've been there together a few times too, and.
Yeah, I've never been, but I'm sure it's amazing. Yeah. All right. This one is audio. Let's see.
Hey Quentin and Soy, this is Joel Curtis here from the Skate Creative Podcast. My question for Soy is, a long time ago in an interview he said he felt more of a connection with British skateboarding rather than French. I wondered how he feels about French skateboarding today and maybe a comparison with British skateboarding now. All right, cheers, bye.
Yeah, Joel. It's actually kind of a tough one because...
you talked about British skateboarding earlier.
Yeah, I already talked about this a little bit, but indeed the skate scene has changed since then. And it seems that now there's not so much of a difference anywhere. I think it's like... maybe there's still differences, but they're maybe not as visible, or maybe not as visible for me because I look at it from a certain viewpoint. But it seems to me that it's more equalized. People tend to skate kind of in the same way. It's not like French skaters are gonna be super tech and skating the dome, and the blueprint guys are gonna skate rough spots and banks.
Instagram must have
now
helped
it's
standardize a bit more. Yeah.
Now there's either like the big contest, whatever, skaters that are doing super gnarly stuff, or the US is always going to have a tendency to have something gnarly going on, like the GX1000 or whatever. But Europe-wise, I'm not sure I can see... There's going to be like small, subtle differences for sure.
Yeah,
but
they're not as important as they used to be.
It seems to me,
Yeah. Let's see. Jan Cleaver... He said, would definitely like to know if anyone ever mentioned to him he looked like the actor Roy Sunday.
It's funny because, I've heard that before. People have said that to me. People have come up to me like, you're Roy. I'm like, no. Roy, I wish I was Roy. My life would be quite different. No? But, it's been mentioned. I always think it's funny when it happens, but...
Okay. All right, this one, let's see, another audio one.
Hi Soso, I hope content is treating you good, but I'm sure it is. He asked me to ask you questions, so here it is. After years, but I'd rather say centuries of skating, traveling, living in different cities, you met tons of skaters. So can you give us a top 3 of the most underrated, perfectly unknown by the majority, but skaters that definitely blew your mind with their style, of course. Thanks. Bisous.
I recognize his voice. I don't know if I know people that are unknown so much anymore, All right, I have one unknown.
Okay.
I mean, from back in the days, I have a few that I think had really an incredible style and that
didn't really make
I mentioned before Travis Graves.
Yep.
He had maybe one part or maybe a part and a half and maybe some tricks here and there. He was a friend of Kenny's and incredible style.
SF skater?
I think originally he's from the same place as Kenny, so upstate New York.
Right.
I think it's Rochester or something. And then went to San Francisco, lived there for a while, I guess.
Okay.
Even more unknown is Johnny Marshall from Boston, who had a few tricks in videos here and there. And I met him in '98 when I went to Boston. I was skating with Jamal Williams, and this other guy was really good, Panday. He was a friend of them. And I saw him skate in front of me, and I was like, wow. And then Panamadan showed me like a tape of footage that they have for him, Jamal, and Johnny Marshall.
Okay.
And the three of them were really amazing. And Johnny Marshall, I'd never heard of him. And I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, what this style is. There's something about it that is really sick.
Yeah.
It disappeared completely.
Okay.
I think he paints now. Good luck finding him.
Yeah. I'm changing a bit his question, but like, who's someone that you've seen skating in real life that you were completely blown away by his style?
Casey Foley was one of them. I remember the first time I saw him in Paris before he got on, the very first time I met him.
Yep.
At that time, I had a vague idea of who he was because I saw some of the Australian videos, and I was following a little bit of that, but I was not really remembering names. And I met him, and I saw him skate flat ground at Republic, and I was like, damn, this guy's style is really sick. And then it turned out that he wanted to skate for us, so I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Jamil also, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Jamil's style is incredible.
Yeah,
too.
really good style, yeah.
Not that I want to preach for my...
No, of course.
But, I mean, they're on for a reason.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. All right, this one is from Clément Arpillard, who's a French photographer. So he said, how do you feel about being the first person to ever make a ollie grange? And so a grange in French is a barn. So I guess you could translate this to a barn ollie. So how do you feel about being the first person to ever make a barn ollie?
Very proud. Extremely proud.
And so what the hell is a barn ollie?
It's literally a ollie in a barn from like a platform into like a plank of wood that I did for God knows what reason. because I was pushed to do it.
Okay.
Because we were there, we were traveling somewhere, and I was like, oh, yeah, you should do something here.
You'll
They'll make the
first
guy
one
really
ever.
happy. Because he was at someone's barn who was doing a lot for that local skate scene.
Okay.
And he brought us there, and they kind of wanted me to do something.
Yeah,
And I was like,
do
okay.
something.
I think it was Cédric Violet shot the photo.
Mm-hmm.
And then it ended up being the poster of Sugar in the issue that had my interview in.
Okay.
And my entire interview or any photo I've always had or any footage I've always had was in the city center surrounded by cars and shit.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And then
The sun is in a bar.
and then the poster is a barn alley. And the funny thing, a lot of my friends who I hang out with today, who are a lot younger than I am, and Clément Pierre is one of them, had that poster in their room when they were kids.
Yeah.
And Clément was, in fact, there because he's from that region. He was like a 10 or 11-year-old kid.
Okay.
And he was
on
that
there.
Session.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was hype because someone, a skater, who he already knew of, came to skate this barn and make the Oligrange. And so, that's the Oligrange. It's legendary for many reasons.
That's pretty cool. 2 last ones. All right, this one, let's see.
Alors, salut mon Soso. Hi, my Soso. I have a question for you. Which rider from the early 90s it's a good choice for Magenta? And I have another question from Antoine, mon ami de Marseille.
It's a question for Roy. I would like to know if you listen to the music you like or if you like the music you listen to.
Thank you.
All right, first question from Mazaki.
Yes.
Early 90s skaters, good for Magenta. A lot of them.
Yeah, a bunch, yeah, for sure.
A bunch of them.
I was trying to think of this, but I couldn't really pinpoint one person, but yeah.
A lot of people I was looking up to, that's Quim Cardona, Keith Nago, Bobby Pullio, Reese Forbes.
What about in France? Are there any people in France that you
from the early 90s?
Yeah. It's difficult. There wasn't as big a
that
scene
would be fit for Magenta, not that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
Because, early 90s in France, I knew of either JB, like the Lyon scene was very active, in my opinion.
But it was kind of more of a plaza kind of skate. Yeah.
JB, I'm a big fan of his skating.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he's a fit for Magenta, for example.
Yeah.
It's a different type of skating.
Sure.
Which I really like to watch. But I'm just like, that wouldn't be exactly... And there were some other skaters in Lyon that were kind of in the East Coast vibe, like the guy who were doing IFC, distributing New York and stuff like that. I guess they were, but to be also in Magenta, it's also like a friend thing. So it's like a side of this. It's hard to say that. So in France, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But so it's gonna be early 90s
East Coast guys,
East Coast skaters.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's gonna be quite a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, a lot of people we've done guest balls.
Yeah.
That was our way to like put them on a team to associate with their skating in one way or another.
Their heritage or their legacy.
As far as Antoine's question,
I
think it concerns Roy.
He said, "Do you listen to the music you like, or do you like the music you listen to?" It's very philosophical.
A little bit of both, but I guess I listen to the music I like.
Okay.
I'm always kind of listening to the same shit over and over.
Yeah, I think a lot of people fall in that category for sure. All right, very last one.
So you usually have a pretty strong idea of what you want to show in a sketch photo. And I was wondering what were the pictures that really struck with you over the years and why they were memorable or important to you.
Benjamin Debert.
Yes, we mentioned him a few times. Legendary photographer.
Legendary photographer.
Yep.
And a really long time friend too. I always suck at questions where I have to remember stuff.
Yeah.
Because I can never make sure like if what struck with me was a photo or a video or something. And I guess, I do have a really specific idea of what I want to show in a photo.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of it's linked to videos that I've grown up watching. Even though, of course, there's a lot of photos that have impacted me.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is to remember them.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a photo of Benjamin that has not little to do with skating, but it's not a skate photo that I've always really liked.
Yeah.
It's a photo of Quim and a bunch of other guys sitting in like some kind of park. Not a skate park, but like a park. Or like
in New York?
They're pretty much sitting on the street or whatever. It's just like them chilling as a group of skaters in the street.
Okay.
And already that embodied what I want to show. Even if I show a skate photo, that has to be something like that. It has to be...
Yeah.
I like the fact that it's going to be kind of a grimy street or...
Yep.
And yeah, to me, I'm not sure there's even a board on the photo, but to me, it's a good skate photo already. Like that encapsulates what skating is.
Yeah, it's not a skate trick, but it's definitely
it's part of the
culture. Yeah.
Where else? There's been many photos that have marked me, but I wouldn't be able to say which one for what reason. And one picture of Kenny Reed at the Bubble Banks in New York was an incredible ollie photo. I was like, that's the one photo where I was like, oh, a simple ollie can look like this.
You don't know who shot that photo?
I think it's Michael Mealy, but I'm not entirely sure. One photo it may even be, I think it's a photo by Benjamin.
Okay.
He's going to fucking hate me for it. I'm not really sure about it. It was a cover of Sugar of Quim Cardona doing, I think it's a switch ball jam 180, I think. I really like this photo.
Okay.
And then there's one photo that has really marked me, but I'm not even sure it exists.
Okay.
I've never been able to find it again.
Oh, okay.
And it might actually be from a video, but somehow I can see the photo.
Okay.
But I've looked for it for a long time and could
Okay.
never find it. And I think I've asked even Ricky about it. It's a Ricky Oyola. So there was like a manhole cover on the ground in the street. And there was some kind of square cut out in the street around it.
Okay.
And he's doing a switch flip over it. There's a car going behind him. And he's doing that in front of a moving car.
Wow. Okay.
And it might I think it's maybe in the Sub-Zero video from a while back. And I feel like I remember the photo, but the photo might not even exist.
Yeah. Maybe you associated with the...
maybe that flash was like, fuck
it
that,
marked you and,
For me, these types of questions is really difficult.
Yeah.
I can definitely say what my favorite photo of myself is.
Yeah.
It's a photo that Benjamin shot.
The tray flip
at the
Saint-Germain-des-Prés
sculpture.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can say it's my achievement.
Yeah.
You know? I was like, okay, I shot this photo with Benjamin. And
it's an iconic spot, a trick you like to do.
Yeah. That's my favorite one of myself. Thanks, Benjamin.
All right, let's wrap it up here. Thank you, Soy.
Thank you.
That's it for my conversation with Soy. Follow Soy on Instagram @SoyPanday and Magenta @Magenta Skateboards. Go visit magentaskateboards.com to check out some of Soy's most recent graphics for boards and apparel. If you haven't seen it already, go watch the iconic Static 3 video by Josh Stewart from 2007. Also, go watch the Magenta videos on their website while you're waiting for Just Cruise Volume 2. Thank you for tuning in. See you soon for a new episode of Beyond Boards.